It looks exciting up here. I'm excited. If I can get a special seat here so I can have a close-up encounter. So we're just going to I'm going to go ahead and pray, and then we'll get started with our Bible science demonstration that the Mascos have for us here today. So glad that all of you can make it out tonight. And so let's just pray and pray for protection, right? No explosions. Everybody stay safe. Pray that we would learn and grow in our love for God and for creation. All right. Caden, you want to go ahead and grab those doors? Close that for us, and we'll get started. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this day, the Lord's Day. We come together to worship you this morning, and now we worship in a different way as we see the magnificence of your creation and the laws of your creation and learn more about that. May we respond with adoration and praise for you as a incredible creator. So pray that you would bless our time together, and we just give the evening to you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Okay, well, good to see you all. Nice crowd out today. And we're the Matskos, and we have a version of this program we do in a lot of different places. This is my suitcase program, which means things I can take in my suitcase and they won't arrest me and put me in jail. That's the main thing. Now we're going to see if you can remember what we talked about this morning. And so on day one, God said, "Let there be light." And there was light. And so what was that light on day one? Who knows? Who remembers? Some kid raise their hand? Anybody? Adult? Anybody remember?
Down here. Down
Yes.
The electromagnetic spectrum.
That's right, the electromagnetic spectrum. Very good. So,
The title of our program is God's Unseen Creation Revealed in Science. We used to take mission teams, I think we mentioned that this morning, for 23 summers to Australia. We'd go for 2 months, and we went to the tropics, and we did this program. And rather than talk about, usually when I say creation, you think about things you can see, right? The mountains and the sun and flowers and animals and people. But God had to create a lot of things you can't see to make the things you can see work. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to use science to reveal some of those unseen properties of the electron and air and water.
That's right. Okay, so the electromagnetic spectrum. Okay, so we saw this morning that there's a little bit of the electromagnetic spectrum we can see, but most of it we can't see, okay? Like radio waves or microwaves, infrared and UV and X-rays and gamma rays. So how do I know that? How am I so sure that God created the electromagnetic spectrum on day one? It's because I know about atoms. And atoms have, anybody tell me what are in atoms? Somebody tell me the components of an atom? Three things. Anybody remember? Okay. Protons, neutrons, electrons. Very good. So anytime you have a moving electrical charge, moving electron, you have electromagnetism.
If you want to turn the lights down just a little bit for this one, it'll look more.
So what I have is a little rusty iron cannonball here. I'm going to wrap it in aluminum foil, and I want to hit them together and see if I can get some electrons that you can see, okay? So let's see if you can see these electrons, okay? That's a pretty good one. Okay, did you see those electrons? Okay. So not just these rusty iron balls that have electrons in them, but all matters have electrons. And so you can see that God, when he gave us his order of creation in Genesis 1, he got the order right. You have electrons, you have the electromagnetic spectrum, and then you have the atoms that make up the world we live in, and then he created everything with those atoms.
You can see the holes that burned in the aluminum foil, okay?
And some people, as we mentioned this morning, they get upset with the idea that you have light before you have the sun. God waits all the way to day 4 to create the sun. Why did he do that? He did that to show that he's more important than the sun. As we saw this morning, a lot of ancient people worshiped the sun because it made the crops grow. And God's saying, don't worship the sun, worship me. I'm a lot more important than the sun. And so he makes sure that everybody knows that. He creates light on day 1, but he waits all the way to day 4 to create the sun. Okay, let's talk about different parts of the electromagnetic spectrum that we can't see, since we're talking about God's unseen creation. Let's start with gamma rays. So gamma rays can be harmful. They can destroy tissues and so forth. But we can also do something useful with them. We can aim it at cancerous tumors and save people's lives, shrink the tumors and save people from getting cancer.
We were staying in a principal, and he was a pastor and a principal both, and he had a cancer right on the tip of his nose. And he had 2 choices: cut off the end of his nose or have the gamma ray shot at it and see if it would kill the cancer cells. So guess what he chose? The gamma rays, and it worked. So.
And every day he came in, his nose was redder and redder and redder. It looked like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
So this is kind of a theme, too, for you to be watching for the ways man took what God created and made him useful.
That's right. So when you think about the creation mandate, the Bible tells us that we're made in God's image and that we're to subdue the earth, have dominion over the earth. So how do we do that? Well, I've tried telling mosquitoes not to bite me, and they still do. You'd think I at least have, dominion over the little mosquitoes, but they don't obey me at all. Now, we have dominion through science and engineering. It's through science and engineering push nature toward a useful end to benefit mankind, like we see here on the slide, and to glorify God. So that's why I like to talk to young people about science and engineering, because here's a direct way we can fulfill the creation mandate that God has given to us in Genesis chapter 1. That's pretty exciting, isn't it? And then we have X-rays. Now, I chose this picture on purpose because it reminds me of my childhood. Let's see how many young people are here that remembers this. When I was a kid,
young people
like me. So when I was a kid, I'd go to the shoe store, run ahead of my parents, and they had a box like this, and I would look at the bones in my toes. They actually X-rayed my feet. In fact, I X-rayed my own feet. Okay? How many remember X-ray machines in the shoe stores?
Yep.
There's one. Okay, there's another one. There you go. Couple young people in here. That's good.
And no protection. I mean, there's no protection. So just imagine the salespeople that over and over all day long.
That's right. It was just a wooden box with X-ray source in it. The last one came out of a shoe store in around 1976, I believe it was, in Connecticut. So that's how they saw if your shoes fit, see if your bones are crowded, and so forth. But it is useful that we can see inside our bodies with X-rays, so we can set bones and that type of thing. And then there is ultraviolet rays. Now, ultraviolet rays could be harmful. We protect ourselves with sunscreen, especially here in Southern California. We can do something useful with here they're using UV rays to clean a hospital room. During COVID, they'd run one of these big UV lights into a hospital room, they turn it on, and would kill all the COVID virus that's in the room. They could use the room over again. They even had a robot they put on airplanes that would go down the aisle and cleanse the airplane of COVID virus and so forth. So we can use UV rays for that. Here it has some beads, and these beads are made of material that actually absorbs ultraviolet and turns color. So watch, see if I can turn the colors here. You see the colors there? Okay.
Let's see the colors.
There you go.
Now, during the next hour, the kids, up to whatever, where's Crystalline? 9. We're going to make we're going to use some beads to make something. So that'll be fun.
So there's a chemical in there called a spiroxine. It actually, for those of you who know about chemistry, it's actually sp3 hybridized. It's tetrahedral. And so when I shine UV light on it, the whole molecule twists and breaks the bond. It becomes trigonal planar, and that's why it glows in different colors. So we have that same material in these transition glasses. These are the old glasses I used to wear. And when I shine the UV light through it, it turns them into sunglasses, see? It turns them into sunglasses like that.
Now, the problem is, though, when you come back inside, it takes, 15 minutes or 20, depending, for them to turn back. And so, you know how hard it is to look through sunglasses when you're inside. So man figured out a couple years ago how to make transition contact lenses.
Because the plastic is softer, the molecule twists faster, so it changes back to colorless faster. So watch. See? It turns it immediately in dark like that. So if you're looking for transition glasses, maybe transition contact lenses would be a good choice for you. So that's ultraviolet light. And then we have, well, spider webs. Did you know that spider webs glow in the ultraviolet? I don't know if you knew that. And which is really good because birds can see in the ultraviolet. And so it keeps the birds from running into the spider webs. You ever run to a spider web with your face? You gotta try to get it off your face. Well, the poor birds, they don't have any hands. They can't get spider webs off their beaks. And the spider's not happy either because he's lost his web. He has got to rebuild his web. And so God made spider webs to glow in the ultraviolet. And so what did man do with that? Well, they found out if they could put UV markers in plate glass windows, they could keep the birds from running into skyscrapers and dying. Thousands and thousands of birds die every year from running into plate glass windows in skyscrapers. So now they can put those markers in there. We can't see them. It looks perfectly clear to us, but the birds can, and it saves the bird's life. Again, using science to fulfill the creation mandate. So here are the birds, okay, running into the wall, into the windows and dying. And there's a spider web glowing in the UV. So you can see the difference. Here's human, we can see what we can see in the spectrum, but the birds can see a lot for us. So humans on the top, birds on the bottom there, and they can see the ultraviolet region. And there we go. And they put those markers in the glass, and then they tested it out with real birds. Okay, so they had one with the markers, one without the markers, and the birds always preferred to go through the one without the markers there. So again, very clever thing. It's a lot of engineering. It's just taking things God has already made and using it for the benefit of this world that we live in as good stewards of creation.
I thought they picked the ones where the markers were,
No,
so they wouldn't run into it.
that's right. They go through the one that's open, doesn't have markers. Doesn't the Bible say that women should ask their husbands at home? I think it says that. I'm going to get in trouble for sure. Okay. All right, that brings us to visible rays. And so you say, well, I can see visible rays. How's that part of God's unseen creation? Well, I'm thinking about, the principle of refraction, that is turning light into different colors. Now I have, you want to do that first? Mm-hmm. So our diamonds are valued because they have a high refractive index.
Don't they have the highest? The highest?
Highest refractive index, that's right. And so...
we need the lights down. Lights down a little bit.
Okay, so we'll
So
turn.
look up.
If you can see up there. So we value...
Now, where's Alicia? Alicia True, can you come up here real fast? Yeah.
Is that right?
I understand that you have a diamond on your hand. And we want you to see if you can tell the difference between her diamond and mine. So come on up here and just hold your hand out.
See if it's real or not.
Oh,
Is it
can you
real?
tell the difference between that one and the one we just did?
And this is one she has. I want to ask you how much yours cost. This one cost
$15.
$15.
It was a cubic zirconia. He did give me a diamond when we got engaged. It's just that it fell out. It's actually on the campus of Bob Jones University, so maybe Abby and Katie might find it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So cubic zirconia has a refractive index of 3.8, and diamonds are 4.2. So there's very little difference. You can't really tell the difference between the two. So guys, when you're getting ready to get engaged, just don't get a real big one. It looks fake, okay? Just get a smaller cubic zirconia. They'll never know, okay? Save you a lot of money. Now I have 3 laser
Maybe
pointers.
We could do it up that way.
I think I can shoot them up. Where do you want to?
Wouldn't that be easier to show it on
Over
that
here?
side?
Okay. So here's the blue, and here's the red, and here's the green. Let's see if I can push them all at the same time so you can compare them. Okay? So they all have the same power, so which can you see the better? The green. And so why is that? Well, they're all the same, but God has designed our eyes to see best in the middle of the visible spectrum. The middle of the spectrum is green. By the way, guess where the sun puts out most of its energy? In the green part of the spectrum. It's almost like the same person who made the sun made our eyes, because we see in the same part of the spectrum. Now, I have a diffraction grating here. I'm going to shine it through here. So what do you see there? Which ones are further apart, the green or the red? Red are further apart, right? Here, I'll do it with the blue so you can compare here. I'll do it with the blue and the... Okay. You can see it even better. Where's there. The blue? There's the blue, see?
Oh, barely.
Okay. So you can see the red is spaced far apart. So red light is actually bent more than the blue light is. And the blue light the red light's bent more than the green light is.
Did you want to tell them? Oh, were you going to tell them about the sunsets?
Yeah, I was going to tell them about the sunsets. So we were in Oregon. And one of the interesting things about traveling around like we do is you get a lot of interesting questions. Well, we were in a church, and these people came up afterwards, and they were people that believed in a flat earth. How many of you believe in a flat earth? Any flat earthers out here? I don't see any hands. All right. Anyway, they were trying to convince me of the flat earth, and I was just getting over my astonishment that such people existed in the world. And so I said to them, well, why are sunsets red? And I didn't realize it's not in their standard repertoire. So I gave them my email address. I'm still waiting for me to give me the answer. They said they would email me, but they haven't, so I'm disappointed. So the reason why sunsets are red is because the red light is bent more than the green or the blue. And so that's one of the evidences we have for the round Earth, the Earth being spherical. Okay? So that was kind of interesting. All right. So what are we on to now? We are up to...
Infrared.
There we are, infrared. Did you know you glow in the infrared?
So all of you out there look like this behind an infrared camera. Remember, Nadia, I was telling you that you'd look with different colors. Well, that's what you would look like. And as a matter of fact, Pop just so happens to have a little infrared camera on his phone. And so you're going to be able to see yourselves, but it's looking for extra heat. So we want you to rub your hands together like this. And when he's in front of you, hold your palms out. And what color do you think they'll be looking up there? What's the hottest color? Not red. Your forehead? White. That's where we take your temperature. So keep rubbing, and when he's in front of you, you should be able to see some white palms of your hands. Wave them a little bit. Maybe you can spot yourself. If you have glasses, they're usually blue because that's the coldest part. And your hair, too, is blue because there's no blood in your hair.
I actually think everybody looks better in the infrared. And I was thinking about this the other day, that if we just saw in the infrared, we didn't see invisible light, there'd be no racism. Because everybody, no matter what the skin color is, looks the same in infrared. That's my solution to racism, all right? Okay.
Yeah, just pull it out.
There you go. You can just pull it out, that's fine. And then we have, well, a squirrel. This is a California ground squirrel. Maybe you've seen them. And California ground squirrels are really smart. They know about infrared light. In fact, the rattlesnake likes to eat the squirrel babies. And so the California ground squirrel, it knows how to scare the snakes away, the rattlesnakes. It actually puffs up its tail and actually waves it in front of the snake, and it looks really large to the snake because it sees in the infrared. All pit vipers see in the infrared, and it scares the snake away. I thought that was pretty cool.
Don't we have a video of it?
I don't know, do we? Oh, there he is. There's our video.
Kicking stones only provokes the snake. Rattlesnakes sense prey by the heat they give off, and the squirrel is able to take advantage of this. She heats up her tail with warm blood.
Aww.
Waving it at the snake is a threat. It makes her look much larger than she is. and the scent of rattler on her fluffed tail intimidates the snake. It decides to retreat.
Now, the interesting thing about that is that if a different kind of snake comes, like a bull snake, the squirrel won't bother. It knows the difference between different kinds of snakes and which ones can see in the infrared and which ones can't. And when I see a snake, I just run. It doesn't matter what kind of snake it is. But the squirrel's a lot smarter than I am because it knows which kind of snake can see in the infrared. Isn't the all-wise creator God, isn't he wonderful for creating this in the squirrel? And then we have microwaves. So meet Percy Spencer. Percy Spencer accidentally invented the microwave oven. So he was an engineer, and he worked for Raytheon during the Second World War, making radar systems. And the war ended, and they're wondering, is their company going to go broke? So they thought, what can we do with radar? Well, he came to work one day, had a chocolate bar in his pocket, and he went up to his magnetron, which produces radar, and it melded the chocolate bar in his pocket. And he said, oh, cool. Now, see, if I'm not an engineer, but you remember, engineers are not normal people, okay? I'm just kidding, all right? But he said, hey, cool, I can use this to heat my lunch. So he started heating his lunch, and then other people started heating their lunches, and finally they said, yeah, we can sell these things. So that's a picture there on the right-hand side of the first commercial microwave oven. It weighed 2,000 pounds and cost...
No, it was the other way around.
What, it weighed 2,000 pounds and cost $600?
No, it was the other way. It weighed 600.
Oh, you're right. It weighed 600 pounds. She got it right. My wife is right. All right.
You all heard that.
Okay. Yeah.
We haven't done this program for a little while.
Okay. So it weighed 600 pounds and cost, no, did I get it right? Okay, it cost $2,000. And now $2,000 back in the late 1940s, with inflation and so forth, you could buy a house for $2,000 back in those days. So that was a lot of money. So guess how many of these units they sold? Zero. Microwaves didn't really take off until, what, the 1970s or so, okay, when they got lower in price. And plus people were afraid of them. They were afraid of the idea of radiation. They thought that it was going to kill them or something. And even today, as we go around the country, we find people who won't use microwave ovens because they're afraid it'll kill them. Nothing to be afraid of. Microwaves just make the water molecules spin. Some of you are heating your hands doing this with friction. Well, that's the same thing that happens in the microwave oven. It causes the water molecules to spin, heats up the surrounding material. You really use a microwave oven if there's no water in your food, okay? It's the water molecules that do the heating because they spin. And radio waves. We think about radio and TV, but you should think what happens when radio waves hit a piece of metal, cause the electrons to move back and forth. Well, we have a little energy tube here, and if we make a complete circuit, we can actually get it to turn on. So let me see if there's any electrons in your nose here. There you go.
It's all that skin up there. But we have a favorite one. Does anybody remember our favorite one? Oh, do you? Should we do it? Of course. Now, do you want to do it for these kids down here? Okay. You take one, and I'll take one.
Okay, let's see if we can
have the front row all stand here, okay? And you all have to hold hands with each other. We're going to have two circles, so...
You do that?
So, yeah, stand
up. Hold on to that. All hold hands.
And Emma, you're going to hold Dr. Matsko's hand, and I'm going to hold your hand.
Okay?
Here. Now, would you hold the end of that?
There we go.
Do you feel anything? Good, you're not supposed to.
Good. So that's...
You look over at
That's about 1 milliamp. So 1 milliamp.
One more time.
When she's finished there.
Oh, I'm sorry, what?
1 milliamp. I was saying what 1 milliamp is?
You have a seat, thank you.
1 milliamp is 6 times 10 to the 15th electrons flowing per second. So 6 with 15 zeros after it per second. And yet they couldn't feel any of that. That shows you how small electrons actually are. And God created them on day 1. All right. So electrons are important for power, for magnetism, In fact, we can use, were we going to do this one for him?
We're going to do this one next.
You going to do this one next? Okay.
We need a volunteer.
I
Where's
need a
Eric
volunteer.
Ray?
Who has
Oh,
good
are
re-
you busy? You want
Good.
to come up, Eric? Can you do that?
Yep. Yeah, we don't want to.
See, Eric went with us on one of those. Eric and Heidi Jean, actually, they were married a year when they went with us on the Australia mission team. They celebrated your first anniversary there.
First anniversary was in Coffs Harbour, Australia?
Yeah, we gave
Okay,
you like
so
one
I
day
want to see
off.
how good your reaction time is. Okay. So what we're going to do now, put your hand right here, okay, like that. And I'm going to drop the cylinder, and the idea is that you want to catch it before it comes out the bottom.
Yeah,
right.
Yep.
Can you do that? No, not very good. Let's try. Let's try again. I thought being a musician, playing with the, okay, that you could. Oh, no, not very good. Well, I want to show you that I'm the old guy, but I can do that. You hold it this time, okay? And so you drop it in, and I'll put my hand here, and I'll show you that I can catch it. Hey.
Good job.
I got good reaction time. Very good. So what was going on there? I played a trick on him, didn't I? Okay?
Yes,
so
two
actually
magnets.
two cylinders.
Yeah, 2 cylinders.
So one is just straight through. This one is a magnet. And so when the magnet goes through the tube, it actually produces an electric field. It produces a magnetic field that pushes the magnet back. It's like an anti-gravity device, okay? So electrons are doing that. We just can't see them. Of course, it causes magnetism. We can do it with this tube here. It's just a piece
Here's
of
the
copper
marble.
tubing. I can just drop the marble through it, okay? But if I put the magnet in here, it takes its time going
And if
through.
you could look through it, it's just going down the middle. It's not touching the sides
Yeah,
at
it
all.
actually
Just-
floats in midair as it goes down. Okay, we call that Lenz's law. You got good reaction time too. Look at that. Okay. So, we don't see the electrons, but they're certainly there. Also, thermal conductivity. We make our pots and pans out of metal because the sea of electrons and metals actually conducts the heat as well as electricity. And chemistry. Chemistry involves electrons. So I'm going to do an old alchemist trick for you. They used to come to town and say, "Oh, king, live forever. I'm going to turn all your copper into gold." So I have some pre-1982 pennies that were made of copper, and I soaked them in a solution of sodium hydroxide and zinc zinc plates out on the copper because they're both active metals. And then when I heat it,
So it's silver
it
right
actually
now.
forms an alloy. Alloy of zinc and copper is what? Anybody know? Zinc and copper? It's a metal that's found in the Bible. I don't hear anything yet.
They said gold.
No, not gold.
Give me one.
If I can make gold, do you think I'd be here doing this?
So I understand that somebody out there has a birthday that was celebrated today, right? So I think Reagan needs to have a gold penny. So can you see the gold penny? See? Well, it's brass. Okay. It's actually brass.
Brass.
But
So it looks like gold.
your
If
birthday?
you didn't know what gold looked like, you might think it was gold. And a little hard to see, I'm sure, on the live stream.
Are
but it
there any
looks-
other
looks
birthdays
very
today
gold.
or this week?
Anybody having a birthday this month? Okay, come on, get your gold penny. There you go. Anybody else have a birthday this month? Here we go. There you go. There you go. Don't say I never gave you anything. All right. So the alchemists, they were interested in turning base metals into gold because they knew if you took a gold bar and stuck it in the ground and dug it up 1,000 years later, it'd still be bright and shiny gold. In fact, we found gold coins that were buried in the siege of Jerusalem in 70 AD, and they're still bright and shiny gold coins. So I found this treasure, I don't know if this year, they found a treasure trove of gold coins from the Civil War. I think it was in Kentucky, and they're still bright and shiny gold. And so the alchemists thought that gold had the essence of eternal life. Okay, they were looking for the fountain of youth, that kind of thing. And so it's interesting, chemistry got to start in a search for eternal life. Of course, we know where eternal life comes from. It comes through Jesus Christ, God's Son, who died for us on the cross. All right.
Yeah, the bouncing wire.
Oh, yeah, she had the bouncing wire here. So here I have this is a new demonstration I just worked up. So what I do is I take a double A battery, and I put a magnet on this side, and I put a magnet on this side.
I'll move this one away.
You move that one out there. And then I'm going to put this on this pan like this, and see if I can keep it upright. Okay? And see if I...
Want me to hold it up? Oh.
Why don't you get it out of the way so I can show it to them. Okay, see if we can all see this. I'm going to put this coil of wire here. And
Uh-oh.
it needs to be longer.
Okay.
Let's make it a little bit longer here.
Yeah. Isn't that cool?
See, it spins around like that. So why does it spin around? Because the electric field produces a magnetic field, which produces an electric field, which produces a magnetic field, and so on and so forth. And so you can think of this as kind of a simple electric motor, okay, which was discovered by Michael Faraday, a Christian, by the way, who discovered about motors and generators and things that we use in our society
So
today.
how long do you think your grandkids would just sit there and watch that? A couple hours, maybe? It'll keep going until the battery runs out.
That's right. Okay, again, we can't see the electrons. There's something God created on day one. Okay, take that off. All right.
If I follow this, I have to take it apart, don't I? Yeah.
Yeah. Can you do that without pinching yourself?
I don't know.
Okay, so here's Michael Faraday. So Michael Faraday grew up very poor, and his father was a unemployed, actually a disabled blacksmith. And so Michael Faraday had to go to school when he was 12 years old. Anybody 12 years old here? 12 years old? So he wasn't able to go to school. He had to go out and support the family. And he worked as a bookbinder's apprentice. And somebody gave him some tickets to the Royal Society lectures, which were kind of like what we're doing here. And he worked at night. At night, he would meet with other young men, and he would learn different new words and how to write words, how to pronounce words, because in his society, how you pronounce words told people which social class you're in. And so he worked very hard at that. So he went to the Royal Society lectures and saw Sir Humphrey Davy do all these demonstrations. He wrote down everything in his beautiful penmanship, made a book out of it because he was a bookbinder's apprentice, and gave it to Humphrey Davy. Humphrey Davy was thrilled. Can you imagine if a young person wrote down everything you said? Wouldn't that be something? And so Humphrey Davy actually hired him to be the janitor, to take out the trash and clean the glassware and that type of thing. And Michael Faraday went from being the janitor to taking Humphrey Davy's place as the leading scientist in Great Britain. And he attributed his great success in science and his great discoveries to the fact that he believed in the unity of God's creation in nature. So he was a very clever man, but he's a man who deeply loved God. In fact, he was a member of a church called the Sandemanians, a denomination. And their particular church, they didn't believe in accepting worldly honors. And so this was a frustration to Queen Victoria because he wouldn't accept any honors they wanted to give to him. And so she said, finally, can't you at least have lunch with me? And so he had lunch with the Queen, but he missed one of the Sandemanian meetings, and so they excommunicated him for a whole year. So they were a tough bunch. Think your church is tough. That's tough, okay. So, but he was a man who deeply loved God. We have a great, rich history in science. Most of your scientific fields were actually discovered by Christians, or at least people that had a high regard for the Bible. Day 2 of creation. God created the firmament. So you have the waters below the firmament, separated from the waters above the firmament. So what's the firmament? It's just the sky and outer space, okay? And so we're going to start with the sky part of it. Oh. And when we think about air, we think about Robert Boyle, another of the Christian scientists that we want to honor tonight. Robert Boyle said God would not have made the universe as it is unless he intended for us to understand it. So he's had an interesting life. He was in a rich family. He was born 14 of 15 children to the Earl of Cork, who was the richest man in Great Britain at the time. When he's 13 years old, his parents sent him to Switzerland to learn mathematics. Here he is, 13 years old. He's in Switzerland. He's away from his home, and there's a terrible thunderstorm, and he's scared. Okay? And he realized he wasn't ready to meet God. So he did the sensible thing. He knelt down by his bed and asked Jesus Christ to be his Savior. And he really got saved because his silly teenage friends said, "Oh, Robert, wouldn't it be great if we could enjoy all the pleasures of sin during our lives and know at the end of our lives we could repent and then enjoy all the pleasures of heaven forever?" "No," he said, "then you'd lose out on all the pleasure of serving God in this life." And I can tell you, I'm 71 years old, and there's a lot of pleasure in serving God with your life. And you got your whole life in front of you to serve God. Isn't that a wonderful thing? So be like Robert Boyle. And he used his extra money. He was rich, but he used his extra money to have Bibles printed in different languages. He tried to get a Bible in the hand of everyone who lived in Ireland, for example. So if you're a Christian here today, you'll meet Robert Boyle someday in heaven because he's a man who deeply loved God. So Robert Boyle understood about the pressure of the atmosphere. So gravity pulls the air molecules down, and that produces pressure on the Earth. And we can demonstrate that using this mason jar. You can do this at home. Just get a mason jar, put a piece of screening on it, and then fill it full of water through the screen like that. Okay.
Get some more.
I got enough. That's fine.
Okay.
And we got the card here.
What's going to happen when you turn it upside down?
Yeah, what is going to happen when I turn it upside down? Anybody tell me? Do you think it'll stay in there? What do you think? It'll all drain out. Anybody think it'll stay in there? No, they all think it's going to. Oh, some of them think it's going to stay. Look, see, no, it drains out just like that.
No, it will
You must
stay.
have different kind of water here in
It
California.
will stay in. You just forgot a step.
Oh, okay.
You tried to trick them.
Okay. So let's try it the other way. I'll put this card on here, turn it upside down, and now the air pressure is going to keep the water in. And I hope so because my wife doesn't like her hair to get wet like that. We're going to be married for 50 years next year, and I'm putting all that in jeopardy right now. Okay.
We need to keep moving, hon.
You want to see what it looks like? See? Huh? What do you think will happen when you touch it? It'll all drain out. You'll get wet. Okay. You've probably been wet before. Okay, so if I turn it sideways, we were in a school, and I was doing this, and there was a young lady next to a young man, and he slapped my hand sideways, and all the water went on her head like that. He was a very bad boy.
I'm sure he got in a lot of trouble.
Yeah. He should have gotten in trouble if he wasn't in trouble already. All right. There's another law of science, Charles' law. It tells us the relationship between volume and temperature, and we can use that to have hot air balloons go up in the air. But right now we're going to have a contest between a boy and a girl. We need a boy and a girl with a hot hand. Can you pick somebody there?
How about you come on up? Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do we have a girl? You
pick a girl?
Okay.
There's a girl
Have this young
hand.
lady right here. Okay.
Okay, come on up here with me. Now we have this hand boiler, and what we want you to do is just put your hand around
like
it
this.
and see how hot your hand is. Okay, so
Okay,
just
grip
put your
your
hand
hand-
around
grip
it and
your
see
hand
what's
around
going to
it.
happen. Hold on to it tight. Oh, she beat you.
Look at
She's
that.
boiling. See hers boiling?
She's
Now,
got
see how
hot
you're
hands
boiling?
for sure.
Isn't that cool? Now, the way you get it down is
Now,
use
if
your
you
other
do, you
hand,
put
just
it-
let go
put
and
the hand
hold the
there,
top.
Or let go and then push it back
Yeah,
down
push,
the other way.
hold, yeah, there you go. And it goes
Like
back
that.
down. Pretty
Okay.
cool, huh?
You want to try it
Thank you.
again? Okay. Just hold your hand around the bottom of it.
I think what I'll do is take these upstairs at 6:30. Maybe the
There we
kids that
go.
are up there can try it.
Thank you very much. So that is a industrial solvent that has a high vapor pressure, and so the heat of her hand's enough to cause it to vaporize and fill the hand boiler like that. We can also use it to fill hot air balloons as well. Okay, so the person we learned this from was a man named Blaise Pascal. Now, Blaise Pascal was born very sickly. He was so sick he couldn't go to school. He was homeschooled. His father was a mathematics professor, taught him all his mathematics, and he was really a whiz at mathematics. Unfortunately, because he wasn't saved, he used his mathematics and his knowledge of probability and so forth to gamble. He was quite a gambler. But when he reached the age of 31, he had a carriage accident that almost killed him. And that's when he turned to God. And the rest of his life, which wasn't long because he was a sickly person, he actually came and used all of his abilities and all his talents for God instead of for himself. Wonderful story. He said this, he said, there's a heart-shaped, God-shaped vacuum in the heart of every person, which cannot be filled with any created thing, but only by God our Creator, made known through his Son, Christ Jesus. So if anybody knew about vacuum, Blaise Pascal was the man who knew about vacuums, for sure. He lived near this mountain, and he realized that you could use a barometer, that is a device that tells you the pressure of the air, to tell the height of the mountain. So he got his brother-in-law to run up to the top of the mountain with a barometer. They compared the two barometers, and they could actually tell how high the mountain was based on the difference in the barometric pressure, because there's less air at the top of the mountain pushing down on you. And that's the only way they could tell the heights of mountains back in those days. So where we come from, there are two mountains. There's Clingman's Dome and Mount Mitchell. And Clingman and Mitchell were rivals, and they both thought they had the highest mountain east of the Mississippi River. And the only way they could figure it out was to get the barometer and to measure it and then run up to the top of the mountain before the weather changed. And so Mitchell, unfortunately, ran up to the top of the mountain. He slipped on a waterfall and fell to his death. And he's buried on the top of Mount Mitchell today. If you ever go there, it says, in hope of the blessed resurrection. So he's going to get to heaven before you do, because he's a lot closer, okay, when the resurrection takes place. But Pascal coined the name pressure for the weight of the air, okay? He's the one who gave us that term. The Bible talks about the weight of the air, but doesn't use the word pressure. It says he looketh to the ends of the earth and seeth under the whole heaven to make weight for the winds. And so here's the biblical way of talking about the pressure of the air. The Bible's far in advance of science as far as the scientific understanding. So what's the difference between pressure and how's it different from force? I want to do a demonstration for you.
We have to keep moving. 6:15. So we have a tube here, okay? I'm going to put my small balloon on one end, and Dr. Masco is going to put his balloon on the other end, and we have them clipped off, and we will take one clip off, but then when we take the second clip off, we need a hypothesis as to what will happen to the balloons.
So someone will give me a hypothesis. What's going to happen when we release the other clip?
It's going to fly everywhere.
Going to fly everywhere. That's the first hypothesis. Any other hypothesis? What's going to happen? No, not going to pop. Yes? Pressure's going to balance out. They could be the same size in the end. They're exactly the same balloons. I got them in the same dollar store, okay?
Same size, okay?
Okay, so it's same size. Anybody else has a hypothesis? Yes? Nothing can happen. That happens in my demonstrations a lot. Nothing happens. Okay.
Okay. Well,
Okay.
so far, nobody's gotten the right answer.
We need to have a vote.
They
Okay.
haven't gotten the right answer yet. How can they vote?
Well, we have to tell them that maybe they'll exchange sizes.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Right? This one get really big and this one get really small?
Maybe the red one will get smaller and the yellow one will get larger. Okay, let's vote. How many think that they'll exchange sizes? They'll be the same. This one will get big and that one will get small. How many think that the red one will get smaller and the yellow one will get larger? Okay. How many think that they'll be the same size at the end? Okay. How many don't think? That's the rest of you. Put your hands up.
Okay, we need a drum roll. Kids, give me a drum roll. Watch the red balloon. Here we go. 1, 2, 3.
Hey, why is that? Well, I showed you the answer up on the screen. Pressure is equal to force divided by area. So which balloon had the greater area? The yellow balloon. Okay? So which balloon had the lower pressure? The yellow balloon. Okay? The red balloon had the smaller area, so it has the greater pressure. You don't believe me still. I can tell they don't believe me. So here's a push pin. Okay, what's going to happen when I push this push pin down? What do you think? Is it going to hurt my thumb or my finger? My thumb. Why not my finger? Because the area is smaller. The smaller the area, the higher the pressure. So if you go to see the chiropractor, do you want them cracking your back with their high-heel shoes? Okay. No, you want something with a little more area. Okay. That gives you the idea. So if you understand the difference between pressure and force, you understand more than a lot of my students did. Okay, so we have another principle. Now, Pascal wrote down all the things he learned about air pressure and so forth, And after his death, a man named Jacob Bernoulli read that, and he came up, from Pascal's work, he came up with Bernoulli's principle. And that's the idea. The faster moving air has lower air pressure, and slower moving air has higher pressure. We can use that idea to balance the ball in the air.
The cold thing is here. You got the cold.
Okay. See? And it stays steady there. If I'm careful, I can turn sideways. It looks like it's just sort of hanging there. You think I can do it better than you can? There we go. You have a tube there? Oh, we got that. You can do this at home. Just get a hairdryer. I put a penny in this balloon, and so I can control where it goes using Bernoulli's principle.
I have a good idea.
Okay.
Going faster.
Okay, my wife says I need to go faster. All right, that's fine. So Bernoulli's principle is the basis of flight. So there were two young men named Orville and Wilbur Wright, and they wanted to invent a heavier than air flying machine. And so they looked at the birds, and they showed how the birds bent their wings and so forth. And they realized that if they put a bend on their wing, that they could get lift because the air on top had lower pressure, air on the bottom had higher pressure. And that's what led them to actually invent the airplane. So here's a short clip about the first flight, and you can see that. So this is a demonstration they did for the Army. The Army was interested in using airplanes for war. And so here's Orville Wright, and he's got his, notice the curve on the wing? Now, how do you get the airplane to go up in the air to start with? What they did is they hooked it up to a catapult. So it moved it along, the air went over the wing, caused it to go up in the air. So here they're attaching it to the catapult. Now, the idea the Army had is one person would fly the plane, the other person would be a soldier with a rifle to shoot down at the troops on the other side. So here's Orville. Well, here they're pulling the catapult weight up to get it started. So here he is, Orville's getting in to fly the airplane. And here's the Army observer coming in next. Okay, he's just sitting there as a passenger. And here we go. Weight goes down, pulls it up, air goes over the airplane, and it rises. Notice how amazed everybody is to see an airplane fly for the first time over 100 years ago. The real sad story about this is that Orville and Wilbur Wright grew up in a Christian home. They read the Bible every day. Their father was a pastor. But when they became famous with their airplane, they changed religions. They went from the religion of the Bible to the religion of flight. And as far as we can tell, they really never darkened the door of a church after they became famous and wealthy. And that can happen too. A lot of times we take the gifts that God has given to us and we forget where they came from. Like Orville and Wilbur forgot where their success came from. It came from the Lord. Day 2 of creation, God said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters and divide the waters from the waters. So let's talk about waters. I call water the miracle chemical. By the way, what color is water? Some people say it's colorless. Some people say it's blue. How come sometimes the water looks blue? Anybody know why the water looks blue sometimes? What do you think? Yeah, so a lot of people think that. That's a common misconception, that the sky is blue and it reflects the blue of the sky. But that's not the case. So if you find a book that has that in there, tear the page out because it's wrong, all right? Okay, let me explain to you why the water is blue. And because the sun puts out all the colors of the rainbow, and it absorbs the red and the orange and the yellow and the green, but because of the size of the water molecule, it actually reflects the blue back out. And that's why water is blue. Now, if you go down deep enough, below 42 meters, it'll absorb the blue as well. Then the water's black. You ever see deep sea divers? It's all black down there. It absorbs the blue. So the ocean's not blue, it's just absorbing all the colors except for blue. Isn't it good that water is not a color? Just think if water was orange.
And you were driving down the highway in a rainstorm, you'd have to pull over because you wouldn't be able to see out the windshield. I mean, I know the wipers go, but it would still be orange coming onto the windshield.
And all your food would be orange because all your food has water in it. And the lakes would be orange, and the ocean would be orange. No matter how much of a orange lover you were, you get tired of orange after a while, wouldn't
And
you?
I'm glad it doesn't taste like anything because we add taste to it. Again, it's in all of our food, and if it tasted like mustard, I mean, everything you ate and drank would taste like mustard the rest of your life.
And it doesn't smell like anything.
That's right.
We were in a home where they had trouble with their water heater, and their water smelled like rotten eggs. Okay, so I took a shower like this, and I came to bed. My wife said, "What's that smell?" And I said, "It's me. I smelled like rotten eggs." So is it good that God made water odorless, colorless, and tasteless? He could have made it any way he wanted to, but he wants us to enjoy the water that we have. But most of the miracles of water have to do with the electron structure. I was thinking about doing a lecture on molecular orbital theory, Chris, but I think we'll pass on that today. I looked at the crowd. Okay, at least you can tell it looks like upside down Mickey Mouse ears, right? Okay, it has a positive side and a negative side, and because of that, what we have called hydrogen bonding. That is, the water is sticky. So I have some water in this little splat ball here. I'm going to throw it at my wife. She's going to protect herself. And it's going to flatten out, come back into, let's do it so these folks can see over here. And it's going to flatten out, come back into a ball because the water is sticky and comes back and sticks to itself. Let's show you another demonstration of that.
You can do this at home. Just get a measuring cup that has a handle and a spout and tie your piece of string or yarn around the handle. Put the spout in the middle of the spout, the string in the middle of the spout. Hold it tight. Can you want to go up a little higher? Yeah, there you go.
And if you're careful, you can pour the water down the string.
Because water's sticky. See it sticking to the string?
Hydrogen bonding.
Okay. Now do the inertia beads.
So one way I demonstrate this is I use these cheap party beads. You can buy them at the $1.25 store. So each of the beads, think of it as a water molecule. And when I throw it out here, each molecule is attached to each other molecule, and so it flows like water. So look up here.
Yeah,
okay? Don't look down here. The kids always look down here, but look up here. You'll see it flow like a fountain. Watch.
Up the top. Look up there. Yep.
Yeah, just like that. So you can make those pretty easily with your kids at home as well.
Now the main thing, I know the kids all want to just pick up that mess of beads down there, but you can't do that or else, might fall. No, or else they'll get tangled and it's really hard to get them untangled. So what you do, Nadia, would you hold that for me? Hold it up there like that. You put a short piece of a different color on each end because you have to find an end. And then can you stand up and hold that so people can see it? Thank you. And turn to the side or something. Anyway, you just get them and you have to put them in slowly just like this. Now the funny thing with the kids, again, you can tell we have grandkids and we're always looking for easy things to occupy their time. So sometimes the kids are going like this and all of a sudden it all falls out again, so you have to do it. It takes a long time. See, it comes out really fast and the kids want to see it again. So thank you, Aunt Nadia, very much. So anyway, it's a good.
So my wife's big on wasting kids' time. But water is unusual because it's the only chemical we know of that exists in all three states under the temperature and pressure of the earth. Solid, liquid, and gas. There's no other chemical like that. And water is unusual because ice floats, okay? That the solid phase has less density than the liquid phase, and so ice floats. We often talk about how each snowflake is different, but more importantly, each snowflake's the same. They all have the hexagonal pattern. So the hexagons open up as the water freezes and decrease the density and it floats. And that's really important. Up north where it gets really cold, if water was like every other chemical we know of, then the lakes and rivers would freeze from the bottom up. It would kill all the fish. You'd have fishicles. But God created it so it forms an insulating layer over top of the water and keeps the fish alive. Isn't God wise in the way he made water? Okay? And I always like to demonstrate that using my friend, the pentapus. This is my pentapus. My wife likes to talk to the pentapus. You want to tell the pentapus what to do?
Yeah, where's the white? Yep. Okay, so I see you have a yellow snorkeling mask on, and snorkelers go down in water. So let's go down, Mr. Pentapus. Go slowly down. Put those 5 legs down there because they're 5. Pentapus. Now, I want you to go back up slowly and stop halfway. Right about there. Stop. Stop. Good boy. Now you can go to the top. Sometimes he'll follow my finger, too. He's been very obedient tonight. I hope you boys and girls are obedient like that, too.
Okay. So how does that work? Well, what I was doing is I was squeezing it. So how does squeezing it make it go up and down? Well, he's got a little air bubble where his brain should be. You know people like that? I do. And so this is Pascal's principle. It's actually named for Blaise Pascal, the Christian that we talked about. And so when I squeeze it, it actually causes the air bubble to get smaller, increases the density, and it goes to the bottom. Now let go, he comes back up again. Okay? And that's Pascal's principle. So surface tension is a product of cohesion, and that's very important in our lives because here I am in the redwood forest in California, Northern California. You see this big, tall redwood trees. You say, well, how does the water get all the way to the top of the tree? Well, it's because of surface tension and hydrogen bonding and capillary action. And so without water being sticky, water couldn't get to the top of trees. Trees would die, the plants would die. And our bodies are mostly water. So our blood's mostly water. To get the blood where it needs to go, all little veins and capillaries, it has to be sticky as well. So without capillary action and cohesion, life would not be possible. You know, sometimes you might read a book that talks about how different plants or animals evolved. I want to read the book, The Evolution of the Water Molecule. Anybody read that? How the water molecule evolved? That's silly, isn't it? God designed the water molecule for life. And it has unusual boiling point. We won't stop here because we don't have that much time. But you can see how different it is. And
just keep going.
It has a high specific heat capacity. That is, it absorbs lots of heat. And that's important because it keeps the Earth temperate. It keeps the Earth from being too hot or too cold. Keeps life on the Earth.
Xander, would you like to come up and be a volunteer? Thank you.
Okay, Xander.
I have a balloon. Come on down here. Yep, I have a balloon. I want you to hold it between your hands like this. Okay, how high can you hold it? Okay, up higher? All the way? Okay, good. Now I want you to stand here above the balloon, and I want
above
you to...
the candle.
Yeah. And slowly lower it over the candle. Okay, can you do that? Just slowly lower it.
Okay, Xander.
Okay, Xander, now we have a water balloon. Now, what we want you to do, Dr. Masco will hold it over the candle, but what we want you to do is get on your knees on the floor and get up close. And get up close and look up under the balloon and see what's happening. Can you see it?
What's happening there, Xander?
This is black.
Getting black. You're putting soot on there. Alexander, I could hold the balloon over the candle until the water in the balloon would boil because water has a high heat capacity. Such a high heat capacity absorbs the heat from the candle faster than the candle can produce it. So here's what Xander's looking at, see?
Give him a hand for being brave. Thank you. You can go back.
So I wanted to demonstrate the high heat capacity of water.
I couldn't get this.
Another way, so I have a solution of isopropyl alcohol and salt water here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to set it on fire. Okay? So you've heard about in the Bible about Moses' non-burning bush. Have you ever heard of that?
I thought it was his burning bush.
No, it didn't burn, so it's a non-burning bush. All right.
Do you want to hold it over the...
So here we go. I'll just hold it right here. Okay. And so the alcohol burns off, but the water has such a high heat capacity it keeps the rag from burning. See, it's not burning at all. Okay? It's actually quite cool there. So as soon as all the alcohol burns off, then we just have a wet rag.
Yeah, not even that hot. Now this
She's
rag,
pickpocketing me.
this
Wait.
rag is made out of cloth, and there's something in here that's made out of cloth, and it's green. Kids, do you know what it is? Should we try to set some money on fire? A 1? Now, where's your faith? There's a 50 back here.
It's a miracle. She hasn't spent it yet. Okay. Okay, so here's Ulysses S. Grant. I found out in the Deep South, if you pull out a bill of Ulysses S. Grant on it and threaten to burn it, everybody cheers. They still think the Civil War is going on. Anyway, American money's made of cloth, and so it's going to absorb the water, and that should protect the $50 bill. So let's see if that's true, okay? See, she doesn't believe.
No, I did.
After all this time, she doesn't believe.
I'm just concerned because it's not my table, it's their table.
Okay. So it's just a little wetter. It's cleaner than it was. So we call this money laundering.
Okay, so when we went to Australia, we're over time just a little bit, but I got to tell this story. It'll be really fast.
No, you don't.
Yes, I do.
No, you don't.
I do. So in Australia, when we went, we always just did American money because we knew what would happen. I mean, I wouldn't have given him that $50 bill if I wasn't positive it wasn't going to burn up, right? Right? Yeah. So in Australia, we did American money, but scientists are curious people. And he wanted to know what would happen if he set Australian money on fire. The day before we came home, about 10 years ago, he went off by himself. He didn't ask me, or I would have said, use the smallest bill, right? If you don't know what's going to happen, if it's going to burn up, you're not going to use it. But he didn't. He used a $50 bill. And he came to me. Well, see how colorful it is? Each bill's a different color and a different size. But it's not made out of cloth. It's made out of plastic. This is what happens when you set plastic money on fire. It melts. And he showed me, and I was like, you what?
She tells people that she was speechless, but she wasn't.
Well, I mean, we were mission team leaders, and so I had to be careful in my response. But then I thought, well, in America, if you get a bad bill, because they get torn, right, and holes and stuff, you just go to the bank and they'll trade you. So I said, okay, on the way back to the missionary's house where we were staying, stop at the first bank, and I'll go in. And I thought for sure I'd walk back out with a brand new $50 bill. But what do you think the first question was they asked? Now, that's an American question. The Australian question was, do you have a bank account here? I said, no, I'm from America. Anyway, I walked back out with my melted $50 bill. And we went home and told the missionaries my sad story. And they said, well, we have a bank account. Maybe we can get it. Well, we left early in the morning, and we were back in America. 3 weeks later, sure enough, we found out they did get a brand new $50 bill. Now, you see, we didn't have any idea 10 years ago that we would be traveling like this. And so it makes a perfect lead into the next demonstration. But you don't always like me telling that story, do you? Because he thinks it makes him look like a nitwit. But see, what I like about that story is that the Lord knew the missionaries needed some money, and we didn't know that, and that was the Lord's way of having us give them $50. But now he's going to set my hand on fire because I told that story on
Then
Mountain.
Pastor John, so watch what she
And
does.
then Pastor John, come on over here. You have to roll your sleeve all the way up. Not all the way, but up a little bit more. I'll do it first just so you really believe, okay?
Oh, good. I think
Okay. So I'm going to take my hand, I'm going to put the palm all the way, whoa, it's a little full, to the bottom, and make sure you get this hair up here wet. I'll do it first. Okay. Because burnt hair,
I hate the smell
and
of
then
burnt
you
hair.
and then you make a scoop like this. You scoop the bubbles off the top, and then hold it over the water. So if anything drips, it goes in there, and flatten it perfectly flat, and you let it burn. Okay.
Right. Okay.
And come on around here so I can. I'll hold your arm just in case. Sometimes people have a reaction of shaking it all the way down. Let's get that hair wet. Okay. There you go. Good.
We're good?
Good.
Now
Scoop off the top. Scoop off the top. Perfect. Now hold your hand flat. Flat, flat. Good. Hold it perfectly still. And it gets a little warm. But it goes out.
Give me a hand.
Okay, we got it.
Okay, well, we're over time. I apologize for that. But not only did God make water with all these amazing engineered properties, but he made it beautiful. Think about all the people who build homes on the ocean or lakes or rivers, because they like looking at it. And that's a hallmark of God's creative style. He makes things functional, but he also makes things beautiful as well. We serve a wonderful, all-wise, all-powerful Creator God. I hope that's an encouragement to you. So thank you so much.